I'm John, and in this video, I'm talking about the 5 things I hate about the 2023 G80 M3. Disclaimer, none of these 5 things actually make me regret my decision to purchase this car. I still love the car, I still plan to have the car for years to come, and every time I get inside of it, I'm thrilled to be driving the car. These are just 5 things after a month or so of having the car that I found a little bit annoying or things that could be a little bit better. First thing on the list is gonna be the stance of the car. The front end to me sits a little bit too high. I think it needs to come down just a little bit slightly. You can tell this by checking the gap in between the rear of the car as well as the front of the car. Using fingers as a means of measurement, in the front you have about a 3-finger gap, where in the back you have about a 2-finger gap. Now the rear to me looks good, doesn't really need a lot of playing around with. However, the front, it just sticks up a little bit too high. The gap in the back is actually pretty good. You have about 2 fingers worth of spacing. My plan is to actually get coilovers for the front and the back. However, for the back, I don't plan on dropping the car at all. I like where it's sitting at the moment. However, I am gonna get a set of 12mm spacers just to bump out the back tire so it's actually a little bit more flush with the body. My next thing, which is a little bit saddening, is the sound. I've watched a lot of videos on my quest to purchase this car on exhaust, things that you can do to improve the way the car sounds. I still haven't been able to find something that I truly think is worth the price. You have things as high up as Akrapovic. You have a couple other exhaust brands. It has quad exhausts which look amazing. However, sound-wise, they're not that great. There are aftermarket exhausts that you can purchase. However, in my opinion, they're not really worth it. I haven't really found one that really gives it that tone that I'm specifically looking for. Now, to others, if you're interested in getting this car, you might want to consider getting an exhaust. For me, I don't think I'll be going that route. BMW tries to compensate for this by having pumped-in audio, which it's okay. To me, it doesn't really bother me because you don't really hear a lot of the sound when you're inside of the cabin. So the pumped-in audio, although it's fake, it does give you that little scratch that you want whenever you're putting your foot down on the pedal. The car does have an active exhaust. I've noticed that once you're actually in M mode, whether you're using your M1 or M2 settings, the car actually does sound a little bit louder. When you initially turn on the car, even if your exhaust is on, your exhaust little button is on, it's still not gonna sound all that great. You have to be in M mode for you to actually get a little bit more sound out of the car. The next thing on my list is kind of a little nitpicky thing, but it's accessing the climate control. BMW has gotten rid of a lot of the buttons, especially on the 23 model. Everything's mostly touchscreen with just a few buttons. So to get to a climate button, or to get to your climate menu and your climate settings, you have to hit the climate menu on your touchscreen and then actually play around with settings. To me, it's just a little bit redundant. Why do you need a button to get to your climate? I'm just used to having it right there in front of me so I can just set my settings and easy to go. Imagine trying to drive and do this as well. It's kind of a pain. They do have an automatic setting that you're supposed to actually use. It takes into account the weather and what your settings are, and it actually heats or cools the cabin to that temperature. For me, that's good. However, being in Houston, sometimes I do like to ride with my windows down. I like a little bit of fresh air, and sometimes I have to catch myself. I have to turn off the AC, that way I'm not just having air blowing out while my windows are down. next thing on the list is gonna be the suspension. It's a stiff ride, whether you have it on comfort, sport, sport plus, whatever your suspension setting is set to, it's gonna be a stiff ride. So just be ready for that as you're purchasing a sports car. This is something that I'm kind of used to, but having passengers sometimes, it might be a little bit uncomfortable for them. My last car, the 335i, was a little bit lower. I had some suspension work done to it, so I didn't really mind that at all. However, I am noticing that despite the settings that are offered, it's still a stiff ride, even in comfort. Now, this is not for the faint of heart. The last thing is gonna be your fuel economy. Obviously, this is a sports car. You don't really buy this car because you're worried about gas and such. However, for it being a new car and having somewhat higher EPA standards in today's time, it's not that great on gas. So take that into account whenever you're in the market for this car. And of course, I'm gonna give you guys an extra bonus, which I kind of find a little bit annoying, is the squeaky brakes. It's a new car, however, the brakes are squeaky as hell. I hope over time it's gonna get a little bit better, but they're pretty squeaky. You pull up to a light, you're trying to brake so lightly so it doesn't squeak. It's unavoidable, they're gonna squeak. So keep that in mind whenever you're purchasing a new car. You're gonna have some squeaky brakes on your G80. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing to John Mission, as this channel is primarily focused on my love for cars and car photography. With that said, I'll catch you on the next one.